Oh, okay. Yeah, I just got the little notification.
You got the little notification, little red thingy right there up in
Mm-hmm.
the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
the thing. Still to this day, I think I chuckle because after I'm done doing some sort of like Facebook Live or live here, I'll get
Mm-hmm.
people that are just commenting after it reloads. They're like, "Why aren't you answering me?" And I'm like,
Because I'm not live.
"If this isn't here, this part, this
Yeah.
I'm no longer live. I was live. See, I was.
What? Yeah. You got to look for the little red button up top.
I can't look. See, it's flipped, so
Yep.
you got to learn how
It's
to
like
like. So
right over here.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. All right. So now with all that, hello and welcome back to the channel. To see everybody, I see a couple of people in the chat. I just wanted to thank our guest today for coming on. This is Moon Fairy Creations, aka I know her as Jessica. Um, and she is
Hi.
going to come on. Hello. And she is willing to come on and share a pretty spooky ghost story that happened over the course of several years. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. Over the course of at least 20 years. So, yeah.
All right. I've got my mug. I'm sitting. I'm ready. Go.
Okay. So, so it was my grandparents' house that I grew up in. So you had their house in the middle, and then a neighbor here and a neighbor here. Well, where all three of these houses was on top of a cemetery. They removed the headstones, but not the caskets.
Oh.
So, like up over the hill in my grandparents' yard was where the gate was. And we would find little glass vases, little bottles, just things throughout the yard. After it would rain, they would just come up in the yard. And I'm like, what is this? And each house in the dining room, the tile floor, all had a hump that went like that, where the ground was coming up. So yeah, each house had that.
My mouth, I just realized my mouth was just hanging open.
Yeah. Yeah, I told you
living living next to a graveyard or living on top of a graveyard is one thing, but also living next to a hospital would be another. Like it would be my hell.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it would.
Well, see, and my nanny told me, she goes, when we moved in, there was a puddle of blood on the garage, but we didn't think nothing of it. I'm like,
what?
Seriously? She's like, yeah. She's like, the house was so cheap. I'm like, there was a reason it was cheap, Nanny. There was a reason. Okay. There was a reason. So the earliest thing I can remember is my dad would tell us what would happen when because it happened when they were teenagers too, my dad and my aunts. He was sneaking in one night from partying and the washer and dryer went off. But when they went off, they like slung against the wall. It woke everybody up in the house.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. And my encounters, oh Lord. Okay. The first one is I've had several people sit on the end of my bed. Didn't know
what
they were
ghosts. That's just like the thing.
I would talk to them. Mm-hmm. I would just talk to them. Like it was, I'd wake up and I'm like, oh, hey, because the bed would just go, and I'm like, oh God, no. Sometimes I just put the covers over my head. And I remember the one night my sister and I used to go to the bathroom together because we would go and the door would be like open because we were younger.
Yeah.
And you just see someone just walking by the door. And I'm like, no. And it wasn't anybody in the house. It was a ghost just walking by the door, as you're trying to go to the bathroom. I've had them like open up the shower door when I'm in the shower. The big thing was, so we had no central heat and air in this house. So we had a window unit, and it's Texas, so it's hot. We had a window unit in the living room. And my cousin was sitting on the couch. We were just sitting there watching TV. I don't know what it was. Something happened, and he flew off the couch across the room. Something pushed, and I mean, he came.
You had like a straight up poltergeist up. You had poltergeist activity up in your house.
Oh yeah, I mean, the cabinet doors would open all the time. You would walk by, they would slam. Chaos. It was always chaos. And then my nanny tells me before my sister and I were born, she decided to do a seance with my aunt and her friends in that house with a Ouija board. I was like, oh, you did? That's nice. I'm like, you wonder why the house is haunted. You just, but it was weird because you could walk out in the yard and it would be like, it would squish really down and we would have sinkholes in the yard to where like, I'm assuming the tombstones were. But we looked it up.
Crap.
We looked it up and all they did was remove the headstones, none of the caskets. So everybody was still there. Yeah.
That's so wrong on so many levels. I mean, can you imagine if that was one of your family members? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'd be so upset.
It was just, it
so
was very heart-wrenching to find out about that, there could have been, kids, there could have been, who knows?
What do you think?
But the house just constantly, constant activity. So the one night I was sitting in my room, I was listening to music and my window opened up by itself. And I was like, okay, I thought it was my sister sneaking back in from her boyfriend's house. And I'm like, okay, it's just her. No.
Apparently, viewers, these teens were quite active. these teens had a very happening social life.
Yeah, they did. They did. I was sitting on the bed and it opened and my curtains pushed in and it closed and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to look. I'm just going to do this. Because I didn't want to see what was going to walk by me. But I've seen, because I have a tendency, so it started when my husband's grandmother passed away. I can be sitting on a couch and like I travel out of my body, but I go to like their house and we sit there and we talk. And everybody's like, oh, you're dreaming. No, it happens during the day. And so I don't know if that's why they were always so attached to my room or what, but you'd walk in the kitchen, just be sitting there talking. Here comes someone just walking through. And eventually it got to the point where you were just like, whatever. You just didn't even, acknowledge it. And then so my nanny ended up selling the house. And I was curious to see how I went back through there as they were tearing everything down because I wanted to see if it still felt. And it did. It did. It did. It was crazy because our carport used to sweat and the area that she said she saw the puddle of blood, it would just sweat in that one area. Like every day.
It would just be wet. It would like condensation on a iced tea.
Yeah, it's about like that big of a spot in one spot.
Oh my God. Did you ever do any research as to find out as to why? Like, was there like a murder on that spot? Like
we tried and there was nothing. So if there was, it was wiped clean. There's you can't even, the only way we found out was it was a cemetery because someone here in town knew. But that's all they knew. They didn't know what kind, who, or what.
So it happened a long time ago. Long time ago.
And we had a pond in our backyard.
Wow.
And
which probably made things worse.
No. I don't even, it just gave me the creeps. Just even walking in the house, you could just feel it and you're like, oh God. It was like my nanny loved it there though. She loved it. She didn't want to sell, but she ended up having to. She loved that house. And I'm like, why? It's haunted.
Did she not have the gift? She didn't understand what she was living in? Because some people are like blissfully unaware. They're just blissfully.
No, she did. She was like, they're just living their life, Jessica. We just leave them alone. She's
no,
like,
they're not living their life, honey. They're dead.
I'm like, Nanny. I'm like, they bother us. Yes, they do bother us. I'm like, Nanny, they walk in when we're in the bathroom. I'm like, that's not normal. I'm like, and you would just, we had an attic fan, attic fan, and we would use that during the summer.
Yeah, just to pull the heat out of the house.
You just walk in that house and you just feel it and you just see things. And I had a friend who was like, oh no, you're not telling the truth. Yeah, till she spoke to someone in the middle of the night. she was like, I thought it was your nanny. I'm like, no. I'm like, am I lying now? She's like, no. She never came back over.
Oh my
A
God.
lot of my friends never stayed a night again after they encountered that kind of stuff.
Did you have any like, this may sound silly, but did you in it with any like relationships with any, like, did you feel closer? Like, I'm sure there were several that we're walking through. That's what it feels like to me right now.
It was almost like a train station, like, you know, just like everybody was just passing through. It was like a train station in the way, you know. Just
so nobody really stayed around too long. You didn't get used to a certain entity or spirit feeling.
There was two of them who like to play tricks on you.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple, and there was nights though that you could tell the ones that were really angry because things would go flying across the room. You know, they would just pick something would go flying across the living room, and you're like, oh God, I wouldn't sleep at night. A lot of nights I wouldn't sleep because I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I just no, you know. But it was weird to learn that it was built on top of a cemetery. But even more than that was that both houses beside ours were having the same exact things happen. All three of them. And they weren't that close. I mean, they were, I'm trying to think how far apart they were. I mean, they were within walking distance from each other, but it was like the dining room floor, how all of them came up. All the houses had bad plumbing. All three houses' foundations had to be redone. Plumbing was always bad in those houses. All three of them. And everybody's yard would sink. You would just be walking and your foot would go down, you know. And
no,
it's crazy because when I found that out, I was like, oh my, because at first I thought it was my nanny because she did the seance. Like, no. And then they said that all three houses were built on top. Somehow they got the land really cheap, just moved all the headstones, but not their caskets.
Oh my God.
Oh, and it sucked so bad. But like to this day, I won't drive by that house. I can't. It creeps me out and freaks me out so bad.
Were you witchy in tendencies back then or no?
They had started coming out a little bit, not much, but they had started coming out a little bit because my grandfather was a deacon in the church, and my mom went to church, so it wasn't anything like that. Was so I kept everything to myself basically, but they were kind of coming out. I just hadn't gotten there yet, but as I got older, they started coming out more, and then it's weird because when I was younger, I could go there. Even when I was like pregnant with my kids, I could still go there and be fine. But now it's like I drive by and I'm like, no. Because they had what we called a little house, and it was a metal shed in the backyard. There was a man that lived in that shed. You would see him standing it was a dark, like a black shadow man, and he lived in that shed, and he would stand beside it. And when she moved, she left everything in that shed. None of us would go near it. We would not open the door at all. So all of our stuff was left there.
Almost, yeah.
It was. I can't. It was such a creepy house, and the fact that you'd just be sitting there and something would happen to you. You know, like my cousin getting like literally physically picked up and just thrown, and you're just like, what the hell happened? You're like, and he was little at the time, and he screamed and cried, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But I'm like, went and got my nanny, and I told her. She's like, oh, y'all be fine. I'm like, okay, nanny.
They're just thinking that. I've had ghosts sit on me, and I wake up, out of sleep or whatever, with basically a ghost sitting on me kind of situation, pushing me down. This whole idea that they can't hurt you is a total
Oh,
misnomer. Total
oh yeah, it
misnomer
is.
because
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
they totally
Yeah, they can
can.
hurt you. I've had some people that have not realizing, but they brought, like, I don't want to say evil things into my
Attachments,
house that I live in now, but they have. And that's why
attachments.
I have things all over the front doors and the porch. But I've woke up to where I've been literally climbing the back of my headboard, trying to grab onto my curtains to get away from it. And it's because everybody's like, "Why do you have that hanging? Why do you have that?" I'm like, "You guys, you're not bringing anything else into this house." I'm like, if you
Right.
can't come in here positive, no. There's certain people before they come over that I will sage my front porch before
Yeah.
I'll allow them to walk up.
I have a sign in my Amazon cart that says, please be responsible for the energy that you bring into my home. Like,
Mhm. I've seen
yeah,
those. I've seen those
yeah.
signs. Yeah.
I'm just like, and I'm not big on welcome signs because I don't want
Yeah.
to welcome everybody up into my home. I'm
No.
like, I could do
Yeah.
welcome friends, but I'm not going to do welcome,
Mhm.
like a
Yeah.
general
No.
welcome. And I'm
See,
like,
and
I
it's
have thought,
weird because nothing ever happened to me. Once I moved out, nothing happened until we moved into our second house that my husband and I bought. And
uh-huh.
then that's when to where I could just sit there and kind of go out of my body and talk to people started happening. And that's when some of the evil ones started coming through. And it was,
Oh my gosh.
it,
Do you have
it
Netflix?
was, hmm?
Do you have Netflix?
Hmm.
Okay, there is a show. It's kind of slow, but at the end, I'm say the last 3 episodes, you're like, oh, like one of those, like what? It's
Yeah.
it's called Behind Her Eyes, and it deals with
Okay.
astral projection and while you're not asleep, like situation.
Oh,
And so
oh,
this
write that
this
down.
gal learned how to control her nightmares and her
Yeah.
substance abuse. I think it was
Yeah.
through this astral traveling where she could go back and like I don't know her husband's like she knows things. I don't know why she knows things.
Yeah.
Like and it's because she's leaving her body to go check in on stuff
And
like all the time. Oh
that
yeah.
was how I figured out, because mine and my sister's friend, it was at the time husband passed away. Wrong place, wrong time. We'll say it was not. He was at the wrong person's house at the wrong time, and I was in another state when it happened, when they had his funeral. So I didn't know what he wore. I didn't know anything. He came to me in my living room, and I called my sister and I said, "Hey, what did so and so?" I said, "Was so and so wearing this? The day of his funeral, blah blah blah." She was like, "Yeah, how do you know that?" She's like, "You weren't there." I'm like, "Cause I just talked to him." I'm like, "I just talked." She was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "And he's not happy." I'm like, and then I had a friend who passed away from cancer who was my age, and she physically hit me because she was so angry that it happened.
Wow.
And I think a lot of my stuff, I think, was kept below because when I was younger, I had issues. I had substance abuse issues. So I think once all that went away, though, everything started coming to the surface.
Coming to the surface. Okay, so this is something that is not normally talked about in the witchcraft community, but there's a lot of us that have had either partake in the extracurricular activities such as those I'll say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and because we are fighting these things a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and you can't say these things out loud to a counselor because then you're going to get locked up.
Yeah,
Like
people be like, "You need more than these pills. You need something else."
exactly. Exactly. And it's interesting that there are so many of us. I do partake, but I have like toned it
Mm-hmm.
down considerably.
Yeah.
Just for, health reasons, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, totally. as far as like drinking or whatever's involved. But I found myself in a spot where I was so either in physical pain or, in this constantly haunted state that it was just easier to be drunk and sleep it off and
Yeah.
move through space and time that way. And that's not living. That's just not living. We got to work our muscle, in regards to setting these boundaries and also spell work it. Like you said, you've got it in your house, at your door, and then in your yard. You have different echelons or waves or checkpoints, if you will, that you start throwing down. You start layering that protection magic, and then you're
I
like,
do it for my kids too. I do it
in,
like in my son's wallet and in my daughter's wallet. They both have a baggie, and they keep it with them. And I recharge it, and I add to it what I need to, take away what I need to from it. We have them in our cars. And just because of, and a lot of times I think a lot of this stuff happens because of what I went through being a teenager, and that, but it's like now that I'm older, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, man, I was stupid.
You see it more. You see it more clearly. The reason why I'm mentioning this to you is because those I've seen the lore. Call me Sam if you want to. When you go check the lore, those that astral travel, especially when they're not asleep, and also when they're asleep, if they're starting to use drugs or alcohol as well to try to dampen that situation, really easy to be taken over.
Yeah.
Real easy. Real quick. So that's my biggest concern for you. I was just like, my mommy inner alarm was like, baruga, baruga. like be careful. Be real careful.
Yeah. No, and the last time I've done that, oh God, it's been a while. It has been a while. But I haven't been as stressed, and I may drink once in a blue moon if I've had a really bad day at work. And I do take an edible every now and then, just but it's
better pain management than what the doctor gives me.
Yeah, well, and I can't, because if I do, I have to tell the doctors I cannot take that because I will relapse. And I'm like, I will relapse, so I can't have that. I can take Tylenol and ibuprofen. That's about it. So there's days though, because what I do is physical work. I'll come home and I'll just like a little half of one just to help me work out the soreness, But of course, where I live, everybody's like, oh my God, you can't do that. You're kids. I'm like, look, my kids are about to be 17 and 15. They know what their mama does. They're not stupid. They know my thoughts on other stuff. But, I'm like, plus I have teenagers, so I need something because I've got teenagers and they're driving me crazy.
I hear you. I'm giving you a hug. It's going to be okay. They're going to grow. It's going to be all right. Well, I'll tell you, I've got, our youngest is 22, and I'm still,
My youngest turns 15 next Sunday, and my oldest turns 17 at the end of November. So
those are exciting times. I mean, they are very exciting to watch them go through the milestones and be there for that. I mean, it's really exciting. But boy, I mean, the amount of energy and attitude hits you upside the head when you least expect it. And talk about, you know what? Your kids are going to kick you when you're down. They are never going to be the ones that are going to pull you up. Let me just tell you that right now. That's not a part of parenthood, and it's not a part of my historical parenthood. No.
I told my kids, I'm like, y'all couldn't have made it living in Nanny's house with all of those ghosts. I'm like, you couldn't have handled it. I'm like, the way y'all are now, you couldn't have handled it. I'm like, because you had to, I'm like, you had to buck up, because that's the way, like, of course, my grandpa didn't believe it.
Right.
He was a deacon in church. He didn't believe any of that. he thought it was our imagination. We were making it up, you know, and I'm like, no, not making it up. Someone comes and sits on my bed at night and talks to me. I'm not making it up. I'm sorry. Wish I was, you know. And it's crazy because a lot of these people would have red eyes, red glowing eyes. You would see their eyes, and then their silhouette would be, and I'd see the bed go down, and I'm like, it's not time to talk. I got to go to school in the morning.
Yeah, that's rough. You know? That's rough. It just feels like such disrespected spirits, and oh my word.
And they have a right to be angry. I mean, and they do have a right to be angry because what was done to them is horrible. Just the fact that they, you know, did that so that nobody could come visit them. You know, and like I said, growing up, we would find little glass vases, little glass bottles. We would find little toys that would just like come up in the yard. Like they'd been down, you know, days, and they would come up in the yard. And my nanny used to keep them, and she would put them on a shelf in the hallway. So I don't wonder if that didn't keep them coming in sometimes because it was, you know, something that was left with them. Yeah. And so that's, you know, they kept coming there because of that, because everything she found, she would keep on a shelf in the hallway. And so I often think sometimes that kept them. But yeah, all three of those houses were were built on top of a cemetery.
You know how much work you'd have to do. I'm just thinking about it because I've cleared some spaces before and I've been successful at it. It's a lot of freaking work. It's hard. It's hard work. So when somebody says, hey, I got this situation, you're like, I can help you, but you've got to teach them how to do it for themselves, especially if it's their own space. You can't be the white knight that shows up every single time to, you know, shoo it out. You're not, you know, you're not a cleaning service like that. It doesn't work that way. But the amount of work that would have to be done in order to even clear your house, I don't think that it would have been able to have been successfully done because of what had happened. There's no real, the only right way is to level the houses and put everything back the way it was supposed to be. And then, there's no,
and it's crazy.
That's the only way to come correct.
It's crazy that there's no documentation or anything on it. And I'm sure there wouldn't be because I'm sure it was done illegally. It was done illegally.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
So there, of course, there's no documentation on it. But it was just, you know, we would talk with the neighbor kids and they'd be like, oh, yeah, this and this happened. And, you know, and I'm like, yeah, it happened in our house too. You know, but the fact that all three of them were going through the same thing. And like I said, it would freak people out when they'd walk in the dining room and the tile would be up. Because my nanny would be like, oh, it's probably someone's casket coming through. And I'm like, don't say that.
So bad.
No. I'm like, just, you know, I tell everybody, I joke, I'm like, yes, I'm a witch, but I am petrified of dark sometimes. I am the biggest scaredy cat there is.
You know, okay, so now I have to ask you. So, I mean, I have tried to watch, I forget what I tried to watch with Tequila. I think it was Conjuring something. I don't know. My kids make fun of me as well because I watch scary movies like this, you know, or like this, or I will tunnel under there. I have a real big problem with jumping, with the jump situation, and I can hear the music and I know it's coming, and I'm like, oh, time to hide, you know, like I'm the biggest chicken when watching this stuff. And they're like, but then when I'm in a situation that it's like full on ghosty haunt situation or like an actual emergency situation, I am like calm, I am like laser focused, I am like ready to go. And they're like, why is it that you can't handle this but you can like handle this? Yeah. And I think a lot of it is because I've dealt with it so much that it's a fight or flight situation. And all of a sudden there's something in me that, I mean, I was an abused kid, so I know how to hold it together, not make any sudden movements, not do, you know, various things. And I like go into this survival mode when I have to, but when it's my downtime, I'm down for like a psychological thriller or something like that. Or you know what? Ghost stories. My favorite is The Others with Nicole Kidman in it. That's a good one.
I like
that's
that
a really, really good. See, because it's a little bit like a little less, you know, and a little more,
Yeah.
you know?
Now,
Yeah.
see, I can watch like the Halloween. I love Michael Myers. I can watch those movies. I can watch the Jason movies because they're so cheesy. You know, I can watch those things. But and I have watched The Conjuring, but man, there's certain shows that if they start doing those voices, you know, that I'm like, cut it off, cut it off. I nope. I'm not gonna. I not tell my husband. I'm like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. It's all up to you. You want to do it with me? I'm not sleeping because I can't handle that. I do not like the voices. I don't like that crap. I'm like, no.
Ever our 22-year-old, she's like, oh, The Conjuring 2 is on, you know, Hulu. We should watch it. And I'm like,
No.
and I'm looking outside and I'm like, nope, it's getting dark. Nope, can't watch that in the nighttime. Like, are you crazy?
No. Yeah, watch it in the daytime. Watch it first thing in the morning. So, you know, if I do watch something like that, I have to watch a cartoon afterwards. I have to watch like a cartoon afterwards or something.
Watch like a baking competition or something.
Yes, I love watching those. I love watching those. I'm like, they're so happy. I'm like,
I really love the British ones because they're also like really good sports about it, and you know the judges are hugging everybody. Like also
Yes.
Glow Up, like the makeup competition. That's a really good one. I think there's 3 scenes. Yeah, those are my go-tos to watch.
Yeah,
to like,
but I'm very, you know, everybody's like, how can you be a witch and be scared of this and this and this? I'm like, because I'm still a human and I can.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, like when my husband goes out of town for the night, my light stays on in my room. The hallway light stays on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have lights on in the house when he's gone because I'm like, no. And my kids are in their rooms, which are fine, but I still have lights on in the house because I'm not doing it. The bathroom light stays on.
Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Yeah, no, there's certain comfort zones. It's the same thing. Okay, so like I think you were in the chat when I was telling the hotel one. I usually leave a light on in the bathroom so I can find my way to the bathroom. And when that goes to close the door, I'm like, holy shit! Like,
no, I'd have been like,
because
I'm good.
Here's where it's going to go. All of a sudden, it's just like if I do reach over and turn on like a lamp or whatever, then it's going to be like, bam, right there in my face, just like a stupid scary movie. And I'm like, I can't deal with this.
My cat, my black cat Cosmo will come into the room at night. He knows when he's ready to go to bed, and he'll sit there on my side and he'll look up the ceiling like this.
Oh, yep.
And I'm like, Cosmo, stop it. Stop looking at the spirits.
Did you know actually you need to leave them alone because actually cats have the ability to actually seal certain portals, and that's what they're doing. So let him do his stuff. Do not.
He sleeps on me at night.
He's protecting you.
He sleeps on me. He doesn't like me to be on my phone. You know, he'll sleep on me at night. And if I'm not in bed, he'll sit there and meow till I climb into the bed. And I'm like, give me a minute. Let me get my pajamas on. And he'll sit there, meow, 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 meow. I'm like, okay. You know, because we have 2 black cats. And they both do that. They'll just sit there and they'll just stare. And our dogs will too, stare down the hallway. I'm like, y'all. I'm like, I'm not going down the hallway.
You're like,
I don't know what you're looking at. You know?
Next time, don't tell them to stop. Don't disturb them because that's what they're doing. And you can look that up. They're actually are sealing certain portals and pushing certain entities out. That's what they're doing. Katie does it for me all the time. I don't know what's going to happen when Katie, Katie just turned 10 this month. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my gosh. But she like holds some space big time for me. She'll stare down a ghosty real quick.
Wow. I did not know that. Yeah, I'm going to let him be then.
Yeah, let him have
that because I'm going to stop him anymore.
Don't do that.
You know.
Absolutely.
Goodness.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had a picture of my nanny's house so I could show you what it looked like. But I don't. I don't have a picture of it. The only picture I have has my aunts and my dad in front of it, and they're not going to want it.
I don't know why I keep seeing a picture in my mind of a White House with a red metal roof. I don't know why I'm thinking of that.
Well, it was a red brick house.
Ooh,
So you got the
red
red
brick.
part right. It was a red brick house.
Red brick house.
And and it had metal poles on the side for the garage.
Did it have columns in the front? Little columns?
No, but we had a brick flower bed that was built out.
Oh, those
from
little
the house.
trophy things. Yeah, kind of like a courtyard kind of thing, but like the flower bed that it protrudes out. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm getting an image of something totally different. Yeah.
And it, it could have been, it's no telling what was there before that house was. But like I said,
cemetery.
Yeah.
Cemetery was there.
It was, like I said, when we all found that out, it was just, you're like, oh my, okay. It's like, I wish I could have done something, but I wasn't the way I was back then that I am now.
No,
maybe
no.
I could
have. Probably wouldn't have been safe for you to do so at that moment in time too. So I'm a big proponent of, you do what you need to do in that moment and you don't beat yourself up about it later on, because you did everything you could, you did everything you could or what you knew to do.
It was growing up was very weird with that. I mean, like I said, it was nothing to go to the it got to the point where my sister and I went to the bathroom together because we were so scared. We would go to the bathroom together because we were so scared, because we knew someone was going to walk by that door, and we didn't know who it was going to be. And nobody liked the lights on in the house at night, because God forbid we have a light on in the house at night, so it was always dark.
Yeah.
And
there's always something about hallways. Always something about bathrooms. So there's always something about hallways and closet doors and doorways type situation. I
had my nanny.
Go ahead.
I had my nanny put a sheet. Yeah, I had her put a sheet over my closet door. We took the doors down and put a sheet up across it.
Oh my gosh!
So that I didn't have a door in there.
Ooh-wee. I don't know if you know the Blackstone, or you can use any stone that actually works for you, but you can take, I got this tip from Tequila. The lip or the molding at the top of your doorway, you can put stones up there. So I put tourmaline and all different kinds of stuff. I do use black tourmaline, and so that way somebody walks through, the energy goes straight down, as far as that goes.
Should do that, but I have like a little it's called a jelly cupboard, but it's where my money altar kind of sits by the door. But I also have tourmaline, amethyst. I have selenite with amethyst on top of it, and I have a bowl of crystals in there, and my incense. Nice. So when because there's been people that came in, well, I didn't even know you are a witch. I'm like, right there. I'm like, that's okay. You don't need to know. And I tell everybody, don't want to go pick up, like, look at my crystals. I'm like, don't touch them. Don't touch that.
Ooh, don't you hate it when people start picking up your stuff going, what's this? I'm like, oh my God, are you really like touching my altar right now?
I'm like, I don't go in your house and do that. Don't touch my stuff. And I have to tell my nieces, I'm like, leave my crystals alone. But they're pretty rocks. I'm like, okay, they're pretty rocks to you. Leave them alone.
Now I got to cleanse them.
Else to me,
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Something else to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and telling me that. My grandmother had an orthopedic shoe store in Ventura, California, and right next door was a cemetery, and they called it in Ventura, they call it Cemetery Park, because there was something very similar that happened there. So I don't know if they removed the bodies or if they left the bodies. I'm not sure, but there was, like, when you went downstairs in the workshop, there was like a daylight basement, so it was like a workroom, and there was a long window, like a long short window that you could look out onto the sidewalk, and then you could see the park. And all I did was I saw people walking by, like that was a thing. And sometimes it was, a bloody broken foot, or it was, like, it's,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's until you lived by or on top of a cemetery, you haven't lived yet.
Haven't lived yet.
The experiences that you get from that, it's just, and it still gives me I think back on it, I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm like, no.
I mean, it's a surefire way to get an attachment if you don't know what you're doing is go to the cemetery. It was like, go to the cemetery. Although, you can get attachment from damn near anything, you really could. Antique shops, I mean, all different kinds of things, you want to be clear.
All of our furniture we have are antiques.
There you go.
But now look, I cleanse the crap out of that stuff before it comes in this house. It doesn't come in the house until it's cleansed because I don't, except for one piece.
Bear has brought home some stuff or whatever, and he left it on the front porch, and he's like, I was gonna wait for you to give it the okay. And I'm like, that can't come in the house. No, no, you can get that off the porch. Like, no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm constantly there's one piece of furniture we have from my husband's aunt, and I talk about painting it sometimes, and when I do, she comes up and hits me in the back when I talk about painting it. So yeah. So we just don't, we're not painting it. I don't need nothing else to happen. I really don't. I'm like, look, that's enough for me. And we joke about it. She was a very sweet person, but she just does not want her furniture painted. I'm not going to paint it.
No. She said no.
She's like, you leave it that color. You leave it alone. It's like, got you. I'm going to leave it alone. I don't care if it matches nothing. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
I'm going to know, so yeah.
Like, it's clear. It's clear to me. I'm good. All right. I'll do what you say.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not touching it. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're okay. That's why I get when my in-laws bring stuff, I'm like, where did you get it from first off? I'm like, do you know the people? Do you know where it came? No. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm like, before you can bring it down, I got to do some stuff first. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I'm like, but I have to live with it. You don't. So.
Oh my God.
And I tell everybody, the older I get, the more I just don't care anymore. I'm like, whatever. You take me for what I am.
Yeah, that's true.
The older I've gotten, the more, I guess, grunt I've gotten to where I'm just like, you take me for what I am. You don't like it, I don't care. Going down the road.
Yep.
The older I get, I'm realizing more and more I like staying in my house, except for work. Sometimes work.
No, it's our sacred space. It's our sacred space. I love my house. Yeah, I'm like a barn sour horse. I should probably get out more, but I mean, COVID has been good for me. People are going to be mad. People are going to be mad that I said that. Nope. No, trust me.
It's been fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. Perfectly fine with it, because you know what?
I'm very much excited about people washing their hands and, staying a little more distant. I'm really excited about that.
Like, I sit there and I'm like, shouldn't we have learned to wash our hands in kindergarten?
We should have. Yes, we should have.
Stuff we should have learned how to do. But then, I mean, I was a sub. I just quit subbing after 5 years, a month ago. So I will say, they don't teach certain things anymore.
They don't.
You cannot force kids to write their names in kindergarten. You cannot force them to do certain things because it might hurt their feelings. And I'm like, okay, yeah. This new generation, I got my butt kicked by a pre-K kid for like 2 weeks straight.
What do you mean?
Bite, scratch, hit, kick, but you can't do nothing.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, he had a very bad home life. He has a very bad home life, and I hate it for him. And I try to give him the benefit of a doubt. I'm like,
but you can't take it out on you.
Well, but
There ain't no way to be.
but the school was like, well, did you try to give him this? Did you try to bribe him with this? I'm like, for what? Hitting me? No.
I'm gonna bribe him with some Benadryl here in a second. We'll bribe him with some Benadryl and knock his little butt out.
It was, and that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, these kids that are coming up, it's scary. Because they'll flat out tell you, I don't have to listen to you. I don't respect you because my mama says I don't have to. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay. And so that's why I
That's how
told
they
my
are.
husband, I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not. I don't get paid enough to do all that, to listen to those
Well,
old brats,
especially
'cause
as a
they ain't saying
temp,
nothing.
especially as a temp, you know, they don't respect you. They're not going to respect you at all. Julie's
They
laughing at me with my Benadryl. Like, listen here, I'm not going to go and abuse children, okay?
No.
Disclaimer, I'm not
Look,
that kind of gal.
I'm not going to lie and say I didn't give my kids Benadryl every now and then when they were younger.
Okay.
Sometimes.
If there was a long road trip, you know, and the baby was teething, then I'm going to give a little bit of Benadryl, not only for their nose and their stuff, so because all this, you know, all that snot just coming out everywhere.
My son had colic for the first 5 months.
Oh.
And we went on plane trips. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
To help the passengers, you know, we give just a little bit to help the passengers so that he would sleep. And it's you know, and it's not that we would do it to dope him up. But you know, they got colic and there's no relief from that. It's hard.
No, they're not. They're not going to settle down on their own. They're just going to work themselves up to a frenzy where, you know, like they're like, they do this number and then they hyperventilate. They're either going to pass out.
So it's like, you know, why not just, you know.
I don't know how I survived motherhood. I just don't know. I'm still not done. They're still here.
There's been a couple of times my kids come in, I'm like, and their attitude from school, I'm like, do you need to have an edible? I'm like, I'm just saying, you seem a little tense. I mean, are you okay?
I'm just like, let's just all remember, I was not the one that peed in your Cheerios this morning. I'm the one that gave them to you and bought them for you. So you don't need to like be coming at me in any certain way right now.
Oh yeah. And that's it, you know, and it's crazy because my kids are coming into their own type of some witchy abilities. But my son's he's autistic. I mean, you can't tell it. He has a job, he drives, but you can see when he's starting to see something, and he'll just, you know, but he won't accept it, and I'm trying to get him to. I'm like, you know, but he's like, nope. I'm like, okay, you know, and I'm like, whatever, just, you know, let you do you, you know. So, but I'm glad I got to come out on here though. I know I kind of got off on a whole nother little tangent.
No, it's a good tangent. It's a good tangent. Remind the people of what you do, and so that they can find you. So that way, you give a little shout out, because I've got something right here that I put here right so that I could show people what you do.
Oh, thank you. Well, I make resin items. I do those palmistry plaques. I also do. Oh, I already wrapped it up.
This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites that you do. And I know I saw the one that you did for Bex because Bex posted it with the black and it was glittery. And I'm like, of course Bex got that one. I know her.
Well, and I just made her another pendulum board like that. Kind of the one that I'm going to send for your show.
Okay.
But I kind of did yours to match the pendulum, the amethyst pendulum. I'm hoping it turns out. But I also make cups. Also do tumblers.
You make some beautiful things.
I'm about to work on a horror themed wine glass, I guess you could say.
This you did for the witchy meet and greet, and I loved it so much I had to have one of my own.
I'm like, and I do. Let me see. It should be dry. Oh, I have one. Hold on a minute. Let me get it. Let's see.
I like your shop set up there, and I really love that chair.
That one was an antique too.
I love it. That looks very comfy. I'm over here looking for a chair because I've got this dining room chair situation here. It is not great. And I even put like a little fancy little scarf here, but I'm telling you, my butt is numb. My butt done be numb right now.
Oh no.
Like I need a cushy chair for this cushy situation.
This is one. Oh, there we go. Now I can find the camera. I can't find nothing. So this is a planchette. Oh my gosh. If I can get it to get in the right spot. I did that one. And
there you go. There you go.
I can't lift up the here. Let's see. The big pendulum board because I have resin in them and it'll spill out.
Yeah, don't do that.
I do these. And then this is my newest little travel pendulum board I have.
Nice. Nice. Is that the one with the goddess with the tree? Yep. That's the one.
Yes. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes, this is the goddess with the tree.
Love it.
And then I do the triple moon tray. Oh, I just ordered a triple moon shelf.
Oh.
And it's about that big and it's like that deep. So you can put crystals on it. Yeah, that'll be here in 2 weeks. It's a mold. So I'm excited to pour one and see how it turns out. But you can find me on Instagram. I don't have a shop yet. I am working on that, but I did just get a full-time job. So I have Fridays off and Saturday and Sundays. So I try to do everything I can on those days. But Monday through Thursday, I'm driving and going to stores. So
understood.
But if you just message me something you want, I'll try to get right back to you. But I pretty much have any color glitter in my computer.
This one's always been real responsive with me. I like on the things and I go, mine. And then she messages me on the side. She's like, do you really want it? I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, I try to. And sometimes though, some of the stores I go to for work, I won't get good service. But if I can, I try to answer back. But no, I mean, I kind of do, like I said, I don't mind doing custom order tumblers, but I much prefer to do them myself. I much prefer to just kind of make my own design up.
Yeah.
Like I just did a horror cut. I had a couple of horror cuts I did, and then I'm working on I wish I could show you, but it's on the Turner. Maybe I can pull it off real quick. It's really pretty. The red is gorgeous in it. Let's see. Let me get it off. Okay. So let's see.
Spraying. Ooh, wee.
See it?
I can see it. That red is beautiful. Really
and this is what's going to go on it.
It's like candy apple.
Yeah, it's called Lilith. Ooh. The mica color is called Lilith. And that's what's going to go on it.
Nice.
That's going to go on it. So.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to do this one. I really am. I'm excited. I may end up keeping it. We'll see. We'll see if I sell it.
Sometimes some of the candles don't quite make it to the table. Like I'm just like, oh well, this is mine. Or I'm just like, oh, this is for my cousin Sarah. I'm like, oh, this is for yeah, that's a thing. It happens.
Yeah, I there's a lot of stuff that I don't put up for sale because I'm like, I want it and I made it. I'm gonna keep it.
You know, that's something that you should do. That's something you should do because I have a lot of my actual art, like my ink and watercolor stuff or whatever. I've given away so much of my stuff. I don't have hardly anything of my own, and I'm like, that's lame. Like, hello, like I need to do something. I need to do something with my life.
Yeah,
build my own portfolio.
Yeah, I see, and I wish I had my one cup in here that I made. It has a water slide on it that says "World's Dopest Mom."
Nice.
And of course, it's got hot leaf on it. But so does my shirt that I'm wearing actually right now does too. You know,
Oh,
like I said, I'm to that point in my life to where I walk around and I don't care. I will wear this shirt and I will wear my pentagram earrings that I ordered from Crescent Moon, and I just don't care anymore. I'm like, this is me.
This
You
is
deal
me.
with it, or you don't.
You get older and you kind of like the skin you're in. You're like, you know what? I like myself. I'm all right. Those are that.
Exactly. Yes. Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling your story. I'm gonna let you go now because I gotta go potty. I gotta go potty. Now that I got up from this chair, now I can. No, my butt's numb, but something else is telling me I gotta go.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if everybody's saying hi in the comments.
There's a bunch of people saying hello. There's a bunch of people saying hello. We love you, chat. You guys are doing great over there. And we're sorry that with these ghost stories, they're just a little bit slower. Or actually not slower. There's faster time frames. So we're not doing a whole lot of, chitty chatting with the thing. But yes, tomorrow, let me do this quickly. Okay, we've got Crimson Fire. And then Tuesday we have Monique. And then Wednesday, I'm not sure. I think maybe Tequila might be on. And that might be in the morning here, but Texas time, noon there. Not sure. I'm waiting for her to get back to me.
That's my lunchtime.
Exactly. That's your lunchtime. That's her lunchtime too. So I'm trying to schedule that with her. But I'm saying that tentatively because we all know what's going on for her right now. So if you don't know, you can go to my Facebook page or her Facebook page. Her little sister is in the hospital, and there is a GoFundMe for medical bills there. She is doing a little bit better, but still, let's keep throwing some positive energy there.
If you can't donate, just light candles and just put energy out there, share it, and just do what you can. Because I know everybody can't donate, but if you just light a candle for, that's,
absolutely,
that will work just as good.
Absolutely. Seriously, that's all that we can really ask for. True. Yep. Your energy is just as good. Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll let you go. And thank you so much. And I'll talk with you. I know I was chit-chatting. Thank you for coming on. And tomorrow we'll see you guys back. And I think it's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific time for me and Crimson. So we'll see you then.
Yes, I'll be there in the chat.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good day.